Grayscale has currently sold over 100,000 Bitcoin, but in a number of days, the amount of selling from Grayscale is going to stop if this trend continues. And this is happening at the exact same time as the other 9 Bitcoin spot ETFs continue buying an aggressive amount of Bitcoin. Today, 17 days after the Bitcoin ETFs launched, we've seen over 170,000 coins bought by these other 9 Bitcoin ETFs. That's 10,000 coins a day, and there's only 900 mined every single day. So once the Grayscale selling, begins, are we going to actually see this supply suffocation that everybody has talked about? Well, let's break it down. I have some really cool charts that we've put together for you guys today that I want to show you. So we're first going to go over to this chart here that is signifying the amount of Bitcoin that is sold by Grayscale. So we can see for the first kind of 8 and 9 days of trading, this amount only increased. And it actually peaked here at over $600 million of Bitcoin sold on a single day on the 23rd of January. Okay, so this was the biggest day of selling, and this occurred 12 days after the Bitcoin ETFs launched. So this is why many people, this is why we've seen the price of Bitcoin decline for the first couple of weeks. We saw an increasing amount of selling, but recently, look at what's changed in this trend over the past 10 days. What we've seen is the amount of selling from Grayscale is drying up significantly. So right now, there is only around $120 million of outflows leaving the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust at the moment on a daily basis. According to the data as of the 2nd of February, we don't have the data for today yet. But if this trend continues, there looks to be about $40 million of less Grayscale selling pressure each day since the 23rd of January. So for the past 2 weeks, we've seen around $30 to $40 million of selling pressure decrease. If that trend continues, this week could be the week that the Grayscale outflows actually finish, okay? This could be the week, and this is where the data comes from. We actually pulled it from this great tweet here from BitMEX Research. So they've actually been breaking down the daily volume, and in the red here is the amount of Grayscale selling, and we can see $144 million of volume on the 2nd of February, okay? Compare that to the $640 million of volume we saw on the 23rd. We are watching, potentially something change in the Bitcoin ETF race. This is also another chart that we've put together that kind of compares the amount of Bitcoin that has been bought by the Bitcoin ETFs compared to the amount of Bitcoin that's actually sold by the ETFs. So in the green, of course, that's the amount of Bitcoin bought by the 9 Bitcoin spot ETFs. And in the red, this is the amount sold by Grayscale. Now, what I think is really interesting to pay attention to with this chart in particular is look at how large that big green clump of squares is. That's 175,000 Bitcoin. Look at how many Bitcoin are mined on a weekly basis. So on the right side of the chart in the white boxes and the little orange boxes, we're showing how much Bitcoin is mined over a 12-day basis. Okay, so this is pretty significant. During the time of these 17 days where we've seen 175,000 Bitcoin bought, there's only been around 12 to 13,000 Bitcoin mined. Okay, this is incredible, to be quite frank. And the only reason we haven't seen a significant move up in the price of Bitcoin is because obviously the Grayscale selling. But this kind of gets us into the conversation discussing what's actually going to happen to Bitcoin once the Grayscale selling stops. Okay, it's because we can see here by this chart, which is measuring the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges, depending upon, which on-chain data provider you're using. It looks as if there's around, 1.8 to 2.2 million coins on exchanges. Let's just assume it's 2 million for a really simplified demonstrative purpose. We'll take the middle of the two estimates that we commonly see floated around on Twitter. Well, the Bitcoin ETFs have bought 170,000 coins in the first 17 days. You can kind of extrapolate out the data, and all of a sudden we could get into a situation where these Bitcoin ETFs really start draining the amount of Bitcoin off the exchanges in a seriously significant kind of way. This is a tweet that we put out on our Twitter account earlier today, and we were kind of showing, look at this, BlackRock and Fidelity, those two ETFs are in the top 10 of all the ETFs in general, all of the ETFs in for the month of January. So we can see here, these are the biggest and baddest ETFs, so to say. We have the triple Q. Look at the amount of volume and the net assets they're, going through on a monthly basis. We can see in January, they saw 5.8 billion dollars of flows in the month of January. And we can see BlackRock down here circled. That's IBIT, $2.6 billion of flows in January. And then we can see Fidelity, $2.2 billion of flows for the month of January. Now, we do have a couple of more charts I want to go through. I want to see if there's any questions in the live chat. But again, it is January right now. What is going to happen in, February and March? Most people are forgetting the fact that we do actually have a Bitcoin halving coming in April. That's really not that far away. That's really not that far away at all. And I think a lot of people are kind of underplaying the significance of what's going to happen with the Bitcoin halving while we still have this incredible, demand for Bitcoin that these ETFs have. Now, this gets me into talking about something I want to show you guys regarding to Michael Saylor. So Michael Saylor is one of the biggest Bitcoin holders in the world, okay? And if we actually go to this chart here from heyapollo.com, what they've done is they obviously track the ETF data. They're a great resource for tracking the data. They actually show the amount of Bitcoin that's held by Grayscale. So on this bar chart, the blue is the amount of Bitcoin held by Grayscale. And you can see the other colors is signifying these other Bitcoin ETFs. So obviously you have BlackRock, you have Fidelity, we have Bitwise in there, everybody's favorite Bitcoin ETF issuer. They should be your favorite. They're the first to come out and actually start publishing their holdings. So they're going down the on-chain transparency path. That's what we want to see. There are lots of rumors. There's lots of warnings about these Bitcoin ETFs. Some people are saying, look, this could lead to a potential situation where we actually see paper Bitcoin, but Bitwise, big props to them. Massive hat tip to Bitwise. They're actually publishing their holdings on chain. Now, in a video we're going to put out tomorrow, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on this video here. This really cool video that's showing you the race between the Bitcoin ETFs. So again, if you want to see that video, that's not going to be a live stream. So you're going to have to subscribe so you're notified when that one drops. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and check that video out tomorrow. It should be a really nice and polished video, not like these live streams where I'm fumbling over my words all the time. But this is where I want to take you guys. I want to take you to this chart here, Bitcoin holdings. So it is comparing the amount of Bitcoin held by the largest entities in the world. This big purple chart here, this is MicroStrategy. This is the Giga Chad. He has been buying Bitcoin hand over fist for the past 4 years now. It's nearly been 4 years since Michael Saylor began buying Bitcoin in Q3 2020. And look at, and obviously he has employed a pretty aggressive Bitcoin accumulation strategy. So obviously he put his entire treasury into Bitcoin. He sunk $400 million of his treasury into Bitcoin. He's also sold shares to go out there and buy Bitcoin. He's taken on billions of dollars worth of debt to go out there and buy Bitcoin. And every month his company produces around a $50 million profit. He's been plowing that into Bitcoin every single month for the past 4 years. And look at the amount of Bitcoin he holds. 189,000 Bitcoin. That's nearly 1% of the total Bitcoin supply. So you would need around 210,000 Bitcoin to have that 1%. And look at how quickly in this orange chart here, the big orange bar, that the 9 Bitcoin ETFs have nearly out accumulated the amount of Bitcoin held by Michael Saylor. They currently have around 175,000 Bitcoin. Again, that's nearly 1% of the total supply, and they've done that in 17 days. It's taken Michael Saylor nearly 4 years to accumulate that amount of Bitcoin. So again, I think a lot of people are really underestimating just how significant these Bitcoin ETFs are, okay? They are employing a pretty aggressive Bitcoin accumulation strategy. It's incredible to see. And let's not forget, this isn't only ETFs that are currently going through some significant buy pressure right now with Bitcoin. We obviously have nation states who are out there buying Bitcoin. That's pretty big. That is pretty big. And we got Rob Wallace in the chat. Bitcoin already 20% of the top 10 Bitcoin ETFs. That is true. The Giga Chad Sailor, that is very true. That is why we call Michael Saylor the Giga Chad. That is very true. Hello to Eric, China Garam. Hello to Muhammad, also in the live chat. But while we're talking about these, aggressive Bitcoin accumulation strategies, everybody forgets about El Salvador. So El Salvador has been buying the dip, okay? So Bukele put out this tweet in November 2022, nearly at the exact bottom. Let's not forget that. And he said he was going to actually come out and start buying 1 Bitcoin every single day for his nation's treasury. And as we looked at in a previous video, El Salvador is now in profit. And this is huge. What do you think other nation states are going to do when El Salvador's treasury continues to appreciate in value? Obviously, assuming the price of Bitcoin does appreciate, like most of us probably watching this video believes Bitcoin will. So I think that, we could be setting up for a pretty interesting time in 2024 and 2025. If Bitcoin appreciates and El Salvador's treasury appreciates, other nation states might have to follow what Bukele has done in El Salvador. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what's happening in El Salvador today, right now, you're going to want to check out the live stream we filmed yesterday on that topic. Yesterday was El Salvador's national election. Bukele won it in an absolute clean sweep by one of the greatest margins in history. So if you want to check out that video, once this live stream's finished, there's going to be a link up on screen somewhere around there that's going to take you to that video. So I highly recommend you check that out. And thanks for tuning in, guys. I will see you all in another live stream. Have a great day.